Welcome to tonight's webinar. I'm so excited that you are here. My name is Rose, and I'm the Digital Community Manager of Now Included. And tonight we have with us Ms. LaTanja Banks, who is brave and courageous. She is an amazing woman, and she's here to share her health story and her journey and with Crohn's disease. And so welcome, LaTanja. Thank you so much for taking out, the time to share your health story with us. I'm so excited that you're here. So first, I've had the privilege of meeting you, LaTanja. I know you, but take a couple of minutes, just, introduce yourself to the community.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited to be here to share my journey. My name is LaTanja, and I was born in San Diego, California. I was raised in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and ended up living in Alabama, where I am now. I've been here for over 20 years, and I work as a financial aid consultant. So I've been in that field for higher education for probably about 20 years now.
Wow. Well, thank you, LaTanja, for sharing that. And I want to say tonight, listen, feel free to ask questions, put your questions in the chat. LaTanja has made herself available to answer your questions as she shares her journey. If you think of something, feel free to put it in the chat and we'll answer your questions the best we can. So I first would like to say, LaTanja, if you could tell us what is Crohn's disease.
Okay, so I'm kind of informal, so I'm just gonna.
Okay.
And I did jot some notes down. But Crohn's is a chronic inflammatory bowel disease, also called IBD, that affects the lining of the digestive tract. Now, that's not to be confused with IBS, which is irritable bowel syndrome. Those are two separate things. But basically, Crohn's causes inflammation from the mouth all the way down to the rectum. It can cause ulcers. When the disease is active, you're said to be in a flare. When it's not active, it can go into remission, and currently there's no cure for it. So it is an autoimmune disease.
Oh, okay. So, and you may have already answered this, but I just want to ask even more clearly, is Crohn's disease the same thing as irritable bowel syndrome? Are those the same thing?
No, they're different. Irritable bowel syndrome is when a person has like if they have problems after they eat, they get bloated, they have some pain and discomfort. Crohn's can cause the same thing, but at the same time, the difference is that Crohn's causes inflammation in the digestive tract, and you'll see ulcers and sores that bleed and cause all kinds of problems. It can actually change the lining of the digestive tract. So that's the main difference. It's a lot more serious. Not saying that irritable bowel syndrome is not, because that can be debilitating as well. But Crohn's is actually under a different category. It's inflammatory bowel syndrome. Bowel disease, inflammatory bowel disease, or IBD.
Okay. So, LaTanja, I know you're here to share your story. Like, take us back to the beginning of, what symptoms did you see, before your actual diagnosis? What led up to you, actually going to the doctor and then finding out and being diagnosed with this?
Okay, so my symptoms started back in 2010, and that year was a very stressful year for me. My mother had just passed away from stomach cancer, and my father was diagnosed with cancer at that time. I had stress on my job, stress in my personal life. I just had a lot going on, and I think that triggered my flare to come on for the first time. So it was weird. My bowels started to change. I had this flip-flop between constipation and diarrhea, and I was having pain when I would go to the bathroom. And disclaimer, we're going to be talking about bowel stuff. So I hope that doesn't make anybody too uncomfortable. But the bowel change was the first thing that I noticed. And then having a lot of pain when I would go to the bathroom. And if anybody has experienced that, what happens when you have some kind of pain down in that back area, it causes the muscles to go into a spasm, which makes you go to the bathroom and you have more pain and then you have more spasms. It just cycles that way. Um, I was having bleeding. I was having rectal bleeding. It started off as just a little bit here and there. And, at first I thought I just have hemorrhoids or something like that. But it got worse until when I would go to the bathroom, the toilet bowl would be full of blood. Just, I got really tired. I started running a fever. Um, I had a hard time eating. And because Crohn's can affect you from your mouth all the way to your rectum, I had bad sores in my mouth, on my tongue, on the roof of my mouth, down my throat, which was making it impossible for me to eat. And I started losing a lot of weight. Just without even trying, I could eat, I would still lose weight. If I wasn't eating, I was losing weight. And then I had really, really bad joint pain. These are not all the symptoms, but these were the symptoms that I had. I knew something was wrong when my symptoms just kept getting worse. And I finally decided to go to a gastroenterologist who deals with gut health. And it after going through about 5 of them, I was finally diagnosed with, Crohn's disease. So that's kind of how my symptom got started. And it's been about 12 years, a 12-year journey with that.
Okay. So, what caused you to have to go through 5
What
doctors?
in our area, in the area that I live, I don't know if it just wasn't, common knowledge, or I don't know, but the first doctor I went to thought I had something else. So they were testing me for another illness called C. diff. Anybody can get that. It's not, it can be cured. But they tested for me and I tested negative. But the doctor never got back with me and told me what was going on. So I went to another gastro. He did a colonoscopy and he said, I definitely have inflammatory bowel disease, but he didn't know which one because there's 2 that can fall under that category, Crohn's and ulcerative colitis. So the difference between the 2 is that ulcerative colitis can cause the same thing as Crohn's, but only in the large intestines.
Oh,
Crohn's, right. So Crohn's can affect the entire digestive system. Ulcerative colitis stays in the colon, and that's where I was having my problem at that time. So he diagnosed me with that and then gave me medication, but the medication was not working. And I kept telling them that. And they said, well, it worked for everybody else. We'll get to that
wow.
later. So
Wow.
eventually that forced me to move on to another doctor. And eventually, with the lack of care, proper care, I would say, I got so sick that I ended up moving to live with my grandmother for a while. And it was in Mississippi that I was taken to doctors that actually turned my sickness around. And I guess they had more experience treating them. I'm not sure, but I ended up going there. And then when I moved back here, I found my current gastroenterologist, Dr. Jeanette Keith.
Okay.
And I have been with her ever since. I'm stuck to her like glue. She can't get rid of me. But she is a phenomenal doctor.
Okay, so I heard you say you moved to Mississippi for some time, and I wanted to ask, like, did you have a support system during this time, that you were battling this? And-
I did. Even when I was here in Alabama, my friends, my coworkers, church members, family members were all very supportive. But at that time, I got so weak, I really couldn't take care of myself. So my aunt came and got me, and I ended up staying with my grandmother, which was a blessing because she was older and she had, the railings in the bathroom, the canes and stuff, all those things I need. And sometimes you don't think that people with Crohn's or something like this would need those things. But
Right.
I lost my mobility. I couldn't walk and I was bedridden for a while. So she had the perfect setup for me, and she was my caregiver. Um, she prayed for me in the morning. She prayed for me at night. She was her voice was the first thing I heard when I got up in the morning, and when I went to sleep, her prayers were what I heard. And even though she didn't know a lot about how to help me, because I didn't even know, I was still learning, she was very instrumental in supporting me. Um, Also, my mom's best friend at the time who lived in Mississippi, well, she's still there. She was, she retired as a nurse. She heard that I was sick and she came over, and she was a very strong advocate for me with the doctors, and taught me what I needed to ask, taught me what I needed to eat. She really helped me to turn my recovery, around. Um, and then also with my support system, this is a
Yeah.
good one, Facebook. Believe it or not,
Yeah.
they have a lot of great support systems on Facebook. So I'm a member of Crohn's and Colitis Forum.
Okay.
And when I joined them, I was able to ask about 1 million questions, because you have access to thousands of people who are going through the same thing that you're going through. So they became a big part of my support system. And even to this day, I'm still very active on the forum. And of course, my doctors. So,
That's awesome. I'm glad that you found that support system and that you
yes,
had an excellent caregiver,
yes.
that was a support system. How would you say your doctors played a role, being a support to you during the time?
Um, well, of course, to me, they're very, very instrumental, because as I told you, I went through 5, just trying to find the right one. And
Right.
for me, I had to make it a matter of prayer, because I just could not afford to have, you know, doctors who didn't understand what I was going through, and then give me medication that wasn't working, and get that sick again when it wasn't necessary. Um, so my gastroenterologist kind of leads my team, and
Mhm.
everybody with Crohn's may have a different set of teams, but I have 6 main doctors on my team. I have a big team. My gastroenterologist, Dr. Keith, kind of leads the pack. And then for my treatment, I have to have infusions done at the Cancer Treatment Center.
Mm.
Um, it's an infusion center. They don't just give chemo, they give all kinds of, infusions, iron infusion, and they give treatments for people with Crohn's like me.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so I have a doctor there who sees me regularly. In fact, I just went this week to have a treatment done. My primary doctor, those 3 know each other. They're good friends. They work in the same network. And so if they have a question about what's going on with me, they text one another. And that's, really important to me, that they all work together as a team.
Oh, yeah. The
Yeah,
communication.
yes, it makes a difference. And I also have a colorectal surgeon that has done a couple of surgeries on me. He removed my colon, and I had surgery last year for a fistula, which is Crohn's related to. Also, Crohn's can affect your eyes. So I
Mm.
have an ophthalmologist, and it can affect your mouth. So I have a dentist. So I have a pretty big team of doctors. Um, a couple of others that Crohn's patients may have, a rheumatologist. Remember, I told you I had joint pain.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
some of them go because they have joint pain.
Okay.
Some of them have doctors who specialize in pain management, um, because it can be a very painful disease. And
Yeah.
different other specialists that we have to see sometimes, dermatologists, stuff like that. But
Right.
those are my main doctors.
And what really it surprised me. You said this has been a 12-year journey.
Mhm.
And I just commend you, for being tough and hanging in there
We try.
and fighting. I commend you. I commend your strength. So during, those 12 years, how would you say, um, your health journey or battling Crohn's, like what part did it play as far as your mental health? Like, do you feel like your support system helped you, with the aspect of mental health and going through this?
They did help me, but I had to come to the realization that it will weigh on you mentally. You
Mm.
know, I've had very candid conversations with my primary doctors or, you know, even my gastro about the mental aspect of it. When you have a disease that's in your face 24/7, sometimes it gets really hard to deal with. Um,
Yeah,
Also, with the symptoms that I have, it caused me to isolate myself from other people because I don't know if you've seen those commercials on TV,
yeah,
you know, where they're advertising where you know, the girl, they're looking for this person and they don't show up out of the blue because your plans can change unexpectedly.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so it, for me, when people ask me to do something, I like to be there. And it was really hard for me to adjust to the fact that some days I may not be feeling well and my plans would have to change. I hate disappointing people. And
right,
that was hard for me mentally. I can't say that I don't have those days, but I've learned to talk about them or, you know, just do something to address my mental health or talk to my doctors if I need to. But my support system is very strong with, you know, they have been phenomenal when I need to just get it out or cry or, you know,
right.
there are times I just have to cry it out.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but it's a battle. It is a big battle
So your
mentally.
support system is your main go-to,
Yes.
during those hard times, in regards to your mental health. That's
Yes.
awesome.
Yes.
So how has your journey impacted your view just on the subject of gut health?
I know more about gut health now than I
I'm sure
when
you hear that term every day.
yes, and it but it has made me more passionate about it,
Yeah,
and made me want to really help people make it easier for them to go through this process because I went through scratch. I didn't know anything, never heard of Crohn's,
right,
never heard of IBD. I didn't know anything at all. And it literally took me, this is my 12th year, 12 years, I'm still learning stuff, you
right,
know, but I've learned to ask questions too. So I love it. You know, I just really want to help everybody that's going through it and
right.
to make it easier for them.
Right. And just for those who are listening and or and many of us we don't know, so like Crohn's, is it something that is it contagious? Is it a cancer? Like kind of talk about like where does it originate from? And I know I'm asking this question because I know some people that don't know, they
Yeah.
can just assume. So where does it come from?
Um, they don't know why it occurs. It's an autoimmune disease.
Okay. Mhm.
And it's my immune system is functions abnormally. That's what's causing the ulcers and the damage. Um, yeah, it's a little bit crazy, but
Right. Well, and then even sometimes people wonder, is it hereditary? And
yes,
so, yeah,
yes.
okay. So, because I know you mentioned your mom, she wrestled with, it wasn't Crohn's, but it was still something dealing with her gut, correct?
She had stomach cancer,
Mhm.
um, but my doctors now think that she probably had some form of Crohn's. And, you know, back in that day, like I said, you never really heard of it. I never heard of it when I was growing up. And I don't think the doctors, you know, saw too many of those cases. So with the research that they've done and the knowledge that they've gained, I think they know more about it now. And, you
Okay.
know, my doctors think that she probably had it and passed it on to me. But of course, my mother's deceased, so we don't know. I've seen some of my other relatives pop up with issues with their colon, so I think it's probably in our family line, and it is
Oh,
genetic. It can be passed on to children.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we do have one question from the chat. Did this disease cause you to get sick more often from other illnesses like common cold and flu?
Believe it or not, for me, no. My Crohn's, my immune system is overactive. So my treatment suppresses it. It you know, kind of tempers it down. But Believe it or not, I have more Crohn's symptoms and less colds. I rarely get a cold or a flu or anything like that. I get sinus infections, but with Crohn's, with autoimmune diseases, they tend to join up with other autoimmune diseases. So it's not uncommon for a person with Crohn's to have another autoimmune disease too. And I've had bouts with Graves' disease or overactive thyroid and some other autoimmune diseases. I don't have them now, but they kind of seem to run in pairs with Crohn's. But personally, I don't have a lot of colds and stuff, which is weird.
Oh, that's good. That's a good
It
thing.
is. Crohn's is enough.
Oh, yeah. So what, what would happen if Crohn's is left untreated?
If it's left untreated, the inflammation can turn into cancer. That's one of the biggest things. What else? It can, the inflammation in your colon can actually cause it can cause your colon to become so inflamed that it ruptures, and that can be life-threatening. If the ulcers are not treated, they can become infected, and that can get in your bloodstream and can cause your system to shut down. That could be fatal too.
Hmm.
It just can turn into a really bad thing. I have fistulas. I mentioned that earlier,
Mhm.
and that's when the Crohn's creates tunnels from your rectum to different organs in your body, and that can become infected. But
Mhm.
that's if it's left untreated or if it's very active. I have severe Crohn's, so my doctors treat it very aggressively because it takes a long time for it to get started. But once it gets started, it goes to 25, like instantly, almost instantly. But yeah, it can be life-threatening if it's not treated, if it's not under control.
Hmm. We have another question in the chat. What advice would you give to someone going through this same disease?
Definitely get into a support forum or talk to somebody who knows about Crohn's that can kind of walk you through that process. If we don't know, we'll love you. But again, the forum was the best place for me to go because when I was having surgery or I had symptoms pop up, I could get perspectives from a lot of different people. They even could tell me if I was getting the best care or not, if I need to go see another doctor or get a second opinion. Um, Definitely have to find a support group or find a good support. I'm your support if you need one.
Oh, yeah, no, that's awesome. And LaTanja, she's in the community. So, even after this webinar, feel free to, post your questions under the replay or just, message LaTanja. She's made herself available. Thank you so much, LaTanja, for sharing your story and being so transparent. We don't take that lightly. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, please feel free to message us in the community. If you would like to learn more about Crohn's or gut health, hey, send those questions as well. Thank you so much for attending this webinar. But before I let you go, LaTanja, is there any words of wisdom that you would like to share with the community but before we depart tonight?
Thank you so much again for inviting me. If you have Crohn's or you know somebody with Crohn's, there is definitely help out there. Advocate for yourself. If you're a caregiver, join a support group as well. And as my doctor always tells me, believe health is possible. And I love you all.
Awesome. Thank you so much, LaTanja. And we do have one comment. She says, thank you. This has been definitely a blessing and blessing to you ladies. So thank you so much, you guys, for tuning in and attending this webinar. We'll be posting the replay in the community, and feel free to share this with friends and family because we're all about educating the community. You guys have a great night. I'll see you in the community.